So you're into role playing, whatever. I'm not gonna kink shame you, man. You do you. I'm gonna try and help you get into your character a little bit better with these 5 tips. Role playing isn't something that you just find in the bedroom, okay? Dungeons and Dragons is a tabletop role playing game. Getting into character is arguably the hardest part about Dungeons and Dragons. Sure, there's a lot of mechanics, there's a lot of, adding a lot of math, a lot of, different dice to use and whatever. That's hard, definitely. But role playing is the essence of Dungeons and Dragons, of any role playing game, really. And if you're not good at that, then I would say that you're not good at the game. So, what is role playing? Role playing is basically getting into your character and playing your character the way that the character would play that role. A lot of people have a hard time doing that. A lot of people have a hard time connecting to that character that they made and being that person in a different world. Um, I really want to make a distinction between a character and a player, okay? A player, that's you. The player is the person sitting at the table. The character is the person in the world that you're playing, okay? So the player plays the character, and they have to have that distinction, and that will really help as we get into these tips here. Tip number 1, give your character weaknesses. Now, I know this sounds kind of unintuitive. The reason I'm saying this is because in Dungeons and Dragons, you don't win. There's not a win. You don't win because you're stronger than everybody else. You win because you're having a good time in your character, role playing your character. Okay, so your stats don't matter too much, right? Obviously, you don't want to lose, you don't want to die, so you got to be strong to survive. But your stats, they're not important. So don't worry about giving your character, a low score in his strength. Make him weak. Make him slow. Make him uncharismatic, or her. And it'll really help give your character some depth. Okay, so I'll give you an example here, and I'm not going to go into the whole Star Wars, sequel, prequel, original trilogy debate, but if we took an unbiased look at Rey, Rey was very good at everything. Or she just automatically picked things up, right? She didn't have to train. She wasn't bad at anything. Okay? She goes in and there's no development, there's no growth, okay? She just knows the force. She's just good with lightsabers. She's just there. She's on it. Well, if you look at the original trilogy, Luke starts off, he's a moisture farmer and he grows into this Jedi. He starts off fighting training bots and he's getting shot by training bots. And then in episode 5, right, he's trying to pull the lightsaber out of the snow and he's trying to pull it like 2 feet and he's struggling to do that. And fast forward into episode 6, he's fighting Darth Vader. Not very well, but he's fighting him, right? And so you have that development that really gives that character that depth. So that's my tip for number 1 is give him some weaknesses. Number 2, do a voice. Now, there's a difference between voices and accents. A voice is just changing the way that your words come out of your mouth. Now, let me explain, okay? Say I'm a timid individual, right? I'm going to talk quietly and I'm going to act nervous. Or if I'm a very confident individual, I'm going to go into a situation loud and ready to fight, right? So there's a difference. Now, an accent, that's more like doing a country accent or doing an Elvish accent, right? There's a bit of a difference there, and a lot of people aren't good at accents. I'm not good at accents. I do accents for fun, to be a dork, right? So do a voice, not an accent, or do both. Tip number 3, visualize your character. We all have those situations where we're in the shower, we're laying down after an argument, where we're picturing ourselves responding to situations differently in a better way. You want to do that with your character as well, okay? You want to imagine your character um, arguing with the king. How would your character act when he's arguing with the king? How would he act when he's arguing with the party? If he sees gold on the counter, is he going to steal it? Things like that. You want to imagine your character in this world before you play. That way, when the situations arise, you don't have to worry about that. It just kind of comes naturally. And those things come with time, as you play the character more, or with practice. Tip number 4, talk to your DM. Most dungeon masters want to bring our characters into the world the best way that we can, because what that does is that helps to build emotions. It helps to build those ties to the character. And if our players love our characters, they're going to want to play them as much as possible. They want to keep on playing them, so they keep on coming back and playing our campaign. So go to your DM, ask him about factions, ask him about the continents, ask him about the cities, all that, and see if you can't build yourself into the world a little bit better. Put your character in the world. Like, for example, in my campaign, I made one of my characters a marshal of one of the largest cities in the area, right? They're not in that city yet, but if they were ever to go back to that city, or if they're ever to meet people from that city, they might know her, and that kind of makes that character part of the world. Just a little example there. Main thing to take away from this, ask your DM to help you. Tip number 5, write down your background. Whether you write a paragraph, whether you write an essay, it doesn't matter. Get your ideas on paper. That way your character has a foundation to work off of. He has a history. He has things that's happened to him, so he can fall back on those whenever he's making decisions in the future. Say you had a ring stolen from you when you were a kid. Well, now all of a sudden you have a friend of yours asking to borrow a ring from you, and you're going to tell him no because this ring got stolen in the past. It's a bad example, but in other situations, say that you're dating a girl, right, and she breaks up with you, she cheats on you. Well, in the future, you might have, trust issues in your relationship, things like that, right? So write down your background, put as much information as you can into it, as many personality issues. If you had, father issues, if you have a background in thievery, you're a convict, things like that, and that'll really help you build your character, and it'll help you. It'll give you something to work off of when you're making decisions in your situations throughout the campaign. So there was 5 tips for you. Here's a few bonus tips. Number 1, don't make your character quiet. Don't make him a quiet type. Going into a situation and saying, my character's quiet, so he doesn't say anything. That's annoying. Nobody likes that character. You're going to feel like you're left out of the party because you're not making decisions. Things like that. Don't be the quiet type. If your character is a timid type, that's fine, right? Because they're still going to say something, but they say it with a different voice, right? So instead of being a quiet, mysterious type where you don't really say anything, you're going to be that quiet, timid type that you're afraid to speak out, but you're going to speak out anyways. You see where I'm coming with this? Okay. Second bonus tip, confer with your party members and try and tie your backgrounds together. That way you guys can play off of each other and off of your flaws, off of your background, right? Player 1 can tease player 2 because player 2 was afraid to pee in the woods or something like that, something stupid. And it's just fun because it kind of helps you get comfortable with everything and stuff like that. So one more bonus. Don't be afraid to speak out. Don't be afraid to overpower others. Don't be afraid to be your character, okay? Make that distinction between yourself, between the player, and the character. In real life, I'm never going to go steal from somebody, but my character might. Or in real life, I may never talk down to somebody or insult somebody, but my character might. So make that distinction while you're playing your character, and don't be afraid of what people are going to think of you as a character. Because they're going to think that of the character, but there's going to be that distinction between you and the character, right? So don't be afraid to speak out. Don't be afraid to talk over people because they're going to do the same thing to you. Or they might, So be your character, speak out. Don't be afraid to be out there. And if people are bothered by it, they'll tell you something, and don't take it personally. It is what it is, right? Work on it, be better. Stay tuned. I'm probably going to be recording my D&D session right now. Once my players get a little more used to the game, once they kind of get situated with the rules and stuff, I do want to record it and post it on YouTube. We're running Storm King's Storm King's Thunder. And it's a good time. I think we've been having a good time so far. We've only had one session, but other than that, catch me on Twitch at Orion's Nebulae. Put a link in the description. And subscribe and like on YouTube. All right, we'll catch you guys next time.